Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review A League of Their Own, the new Amazon series coming your way to streaming, and I'm a huge fan of the film. I'm a huge fan of baseball, and that legitimately is one of the best sports movies ever made. And it does something special in terms of balancing how great you can make a sports film and also how great you could do character work. This series does one of those things really well and really skimps on the other one. And when it comes down to it, if you're trying to watch this new series, A League of Their Own, as a baseball show, I think you're going to be disappointed. They definitely don't put as much of a focus on the baseball. Like, obviously, they play, they practice, and it's more about the team dynamics than actually like having any exciting baseball scenes. And what's really disappointing is how terrible the CGI looks with the ball. It looks like a rubber ball being slingshotted across the field at times and looks so absurd, completely takes you out of the show. And the way that they treat the games in this series, they have a championship series in the last episode, the 8th episode of this first season, and they keep cutting back to like human drama in the other plot going on in the middle of the game. And you're just like, how am I supposed to keep this tension going of like who's going to win the game? And I feel like that's a disappointment in terms of, at least for me it was a disappointment watching this show, because they do the baseball so well in the film but doesn't get in the way of them doing great character work. And I do admit that they do a good job of subverting your expectations in terms of beats when it comes to the team, because you really do expect right off the bat Nick Offerman's going to be the Tom Hanks of the series, but he's not even in it that much, to be perfectly honest. And they really shake things up and really put the onus on Carson Shaw, played by Abby Jacobson, our main character. Well, this show actually has two main characters. You have Carson, and then you have Shantae Adams, Max Chapman, who, because this show basically tells two specific distinct stories, except they become friends, so they're kind of interconnected. And one, which is about the actual league that this is supposed to be focused on, and another one that has nothing to do with it. And I feel like that's a bit of a issue in terms of trying to balance these stories, but at least it doesn't harm the actual character work. It might feel choppy trying to balance both of these major stories, because, like, honestly, Max Chapman's story could be its own series altogether and fit in its own. And I feel like they're trying to shoehorn it into this series to try to capture, like, in hindsight, this women's league had no women, no black women, because you had the Negro leagues, which barely had women in it. And you had this whole entire dynamic going on where it's like, well, we want to represent here, and there's a lot of representation, almost to the point of like this feels like a Ryan Murphy Hollywood situation where it's just like, this is completely unrealistic. You have to suspend your disbelief for a lot of this, but I do think it's good. And they do the representation well, and they create interesting and engaging characters, because like they tackle, like, there's a lot that has to do with being a lesbian in this show. You have trans issues, you even have a character who English is not her first language, and those kinds of struggles. It has all those kinds of things, but it's also trying to balance a lot of things. And this whole side story with Max, Shantae Adams is great, and she's trying to deal with, she wants to be a baseball player, but she wants to be comfortable in her own skin and who she loves and how she feels dressing, because it deals with gender nonconformity. And it's the kind of thing where this whole entire, I don't even want to call it subplot, it's like co-plot, and which is really unexpected, especially when this show is sold as like a remake of the film, which is specifically about the Rockford Peaches. But you have this whole entire thing where it's engaging, it has interesting characters and interesting drama, and makes you feel, It's just on top of everything else, and you're trying to balance things, and like I mentioned before, they struggle to balance the actual narratives. Then you have Carson, played by Jacobson, who I enjoy. I think she's a fun, quirky lead. It's definitely different than the film because you don't have a Gina Davis type. You don't have that kind of screen presence in this. Abby Jacobson's a different kind of presence. And she has her own struggle because she has her husband, but she's gay. And she develops this relationship with Greta, who's played by Darcy Carden, who's great. She's fantastic. And, you know, Carson's dealing with the fact that she's put in charge of the team coaching and trying to balance things and trying to balance her love life and who she really is. And you do have a great collection of characters thrown in, like Lupe and Jess and Esty and Mabel and especially Joe, who's a big standout. And this deals with some like serious issues, and they develop these characters so well, and like you care, and I love the characters in this show. I just don't love the show. But I did enjoy the show quite a bit, and I'm down for season 2. It leaves you with quite the cliffhanger at the end of this first season. It's just, one, if you're going in hoping to capture the same magic of the film, going with altered expectations. It's a different kind of show. And don't go in hoping to get some great baseball on screen, because it's not. It's just not. But this is some great character work, an engaging show for the most part, and it's balancing a lot of interesting and engaging and timely themes, even if they feel a little out of place in terms of the setting, and you have to suspend your disbelief. But those are my thoughts on Season 1 of A League of Their Own. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some TV. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.